Hello. Hello, hi. I'm back. I want to talk about some movies that I've seen. I am just now realizing, I'm trying the headphones for the first time to see how loud I am. Quiet or loud, still trying to figure out the sound thing. I have a very squeaky chair, so apologies. I'm also wearing some bracelets, so you'll hear those. But yeah, I've seen some movies, 2 movies I want to talk about recently that I loved, and I just really feel the need to talk about. So I thought, why not talk about them here? Mild spoiler warning. I will in fact be spoiling these movies. So if you haven't seen them, go see them. Especially if you can see them in a theater, go see them. If you haven't seen them and you can't see them in a theater, you should still see them. The moral of the story is that you should see these movies, really. But I'll give you the titles. So, we're going to talk about I Love Boosters first, which is a film by Boots Riley. It is his sophomore feature. Wonderful, wonderful film. And then we are also going to talk about the latest from America's sweetheart, Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day. I don't know that they're remotely similar at all, but maybe they are. Maybe we'll find that out together. I loved them both for different and similar reasons, but let me stop being vague. I've written things about both movies. We are going in chronological order, so we'll start with I Love Boosters, and then we'll go to Disclosure Day. I'm going to read you a couple things that I wrote because the sad reality of today is that people don't like to read. And when you like to write, it sucks because people don't want to read. So I'm going to read it to you. And then we'll proceed with the ramble. So, spoiler warning. One last spoiler warning. If you care about spoilers for I Love Boosters or Disclosure Day, you should probably leave. If you don't, proceed freely. Yeah, let's go. So, the title of my opinion piece is called I Love Boosters, and you should too. Oh boy. It's going to be interesting to read this out loud. Boots Riley's sophomore feature, I Love Boosters, is one of the most radically artful films I have seen in decades. Craftsmanship on display astounded me and prompted me to reflect on the deeper implications of Riley's film. Spoiler warning is mild. I Love Boosters flexes every nook and cranny of practical filmmaking. Innovative production design, practical and in-camera effects, forced perspective, miniatures, stop motion, prosthetics, costuming, hair, makeup, the list goes on. To say that the film is a glorious cacophony of color, end quotes, To say that the film is a glorious cacophony of color and creativity, end quote, feels like an understatement. I walked out of the theater in awe, astonished that a film of this nature could have been produced in the midst of an industry that is eating itself alive. The filmmaking alone is something to be celebrated, but I sat with it longer and came to realize there is a deeper, more radical act at play with this wonderful display of craftsmanship. Boots Riley has established himself as an auteur with just 2 feature films and 1 episodic series, I'm a Virgo, which came out in 2023. His filmmaking is playful, often categorized under labels such as magical realism, absurdism, surrealism, and dark comedy. Look deeper, and you'll notice consistent themes of anti-capitalism, class conflict, and wealth disparity. Riley himself is known for his activism, so naturally, political commentary has become a recognized element of his authorship. While I Love Boosters has been well received by critics, a number of my Letterboxd mutuals, notably white cisgender males, have reviewed the film poorly based solely on the grounds of their opinion of its social commentary. And I quote one of them, "Aimless," they call it. Others have commented on ways that Riley's critique of the fashion industry falls short. I will not claim the film is perfect. However, it is this writer's opinion that to attempt to separate commentary from craft not only does oneself a blatant disservice and demonstrates, dare I say, ignorance, a fundamental misunderstanding of filmmaking and of media literacy, but is also, in some cases, previously mentioned white boys, I'm looking at you, in some cases rooted in racism and bigotry. To judge any film created by an artist belonging to a marginalized group based solely on one's opinion of good or bad commentary, which may or may not relate to said artist's lived experience with race, ethnicity, class, disability, gender, sexuality, etc., is to fundamentally reduce an entire work of art down to a single expectation that the artist somehow owes you commentary, rather than engaging with their art in the same way that you would any other artist. Think of Quentin Tarantino, if you like. In other words, to assume that black artists are only as good as the commentary you read into their art is racist. To reduce any marginalized artist's work down to the sole value that you place on its commentary, especially if you are white, is bigotry. So if the only thing you take away from I Love Boosters is your limited opinion, judgment, or approval of its socio-political commentary, you are not only self-reporting your own bigotry, but you are also misunderstanding a foundational element of filmmaking. If art is about the creative process, then it is this process that may matter most, as it becomes the very foundation upon which the narrative commentary is built and expounded. It is impossible to separate the two. Thus, it becomes even more important to understand how the craft behind I Love Boosters plays such a pivotal role in its larger commentary. The current state of Hollywood is a bleak one. Studios increasingly rely on cheap labor to produce cheap results. Overworked and underpaid creatives work to produce movies that function as reliable generators of revenue for studios focused on cost alone. By these standards, the value of process is no longer viable and thus not worth investing in. The value of any given film is now placed solely on the end result, how it does in the box office. I Love Boosters shines in its opposition to this, instead placing focus on the fullest extent of process-centered practical filmmaking. The craft involved in this type of filmmaking not only is deliberately more thoughtful, I keep losing my place, but it is also not guaranteed by Hollywood's standards to generate nearly as much capital as it may have taken to create the film in the first place. Every element of a film is intentional. The fullness of the commentary that one reads into a film only exists because of a collection of choices made by those who crafted it. In this way, Riley extends the philosophy of craft into the anti-capitalist themes present in the narratives of I Love Boosters, radically intertwining the two. No, the film is not perfect. The third act drags in pace, the plot wanders a bit. At times, some of the sound mixing made dialogue difficult to interpret, and I'm sure valid critiques of its wider socio-political statements do exist, unless you're white, in which case but I refuse to let these imperfections take away from the importance of its existence. In an industry poisoned by greed, there is a deep necessity to keep imaginative, artful cinema alive, and Boots Riley did exactly that. The color of passion bleeds from the screen into my eager eyes. That passion is radical. Everything is intertwined. I Love Boosters is an artful statement against an industry consumed by greed, and is as radical an act of those of the Velvet Gang themselves. And then I have a note that's not directly related. As I wrote this piece, I thought of more filmmakers like Riley, artists unafraid of imaginative, playful filmmaking as a tool to create radical narratives. I've called it radical playgroundism. It's something I see throughout Julio Torres' filmography, namely Problemista, Jane Schoenbrun's I Saw the TV Glow, and even the Wachowskis' 2008 cult classic Speed Racer, with which we saw an innovative new spin on VFX, thoughtful commentary on masculinity, and a rare beating heart in a blockbuster-sized movie. I do imagine that said radical playgroundism may stand out as a concept may stand out as a contemporary practice given the current cultural climate of Hollywood. But there may certainly be outliers. For instance, I think of queer cult classic But I'm a Cheerleader, and Riley himself named Jacques Tati's Playtime as an influence on I Love Boosters for its cultural commentary at the time of release, as well as a similar emphasis on practical filmmaking, miniatures, forced perspectives, in-camera effects, etc. I am so grateful to exist in the same timeline as artists who are practicing this kind of passionate, artful, imaginative filmmaking. That's the end of the opinion piece. There is something to me personally very annoying about the white film bros who come out of something as bold as I Love Boosters and can only focus on one thing, and it's not how beautiful the movie is. Somehow, you've gone through an entire experience that is one of the most colorful, and maybe the most literal sense of that word. Colorful, literally, visually, stylistically, musically. Every element is just alive and bursting and saturated, which, again, we don't see right now. Not in the US, not in Hollywood, we do not see. To come out of that and to only critique your personal opinion of whether or not it said what you wanted it to say in the way that you wanted it to say is frankly boring. You're boring. I'm sorry. But I was truly baffled. I wrote this piece because I saw probably 3 of my mutuals complaining about a similar thing, and it made me so upset because I walked out of that film absolutely glowing. I am just so grateful that filmmakers like Boots exist and that people fund their films. Because most people don't. Most people fund slop and would be willing to fund AI-generated slop if it made them more money. But this movie is just beautiful. It's just everything about it. If you like any type of practical anything, which I love, there's miniatures, there's stop motion, there's really interesting forced perspectives tricks, and I remember I had heard about his show, I'm a Virgo, when it came out, but I didn't watch it because I'm bad at watching TV shows, and I frankly didn't do the research, didn't realize it was, I think, 8 episodes that are very short. I watched a fair amount of interviews that Boots did as press or background for I Love Boosters, and don't remember which one it was, but he talked about how he kind of started playing with practical things on I'm a Virgo, and I ran to that show, and it is equally as beautiful. So if you haven't seen I'm a Virgo and you do enjoy, frankly, it's just a lot of really interesting filmmaking that you just don't see. The thing is that this stands out, not only in the fact that it is so colorful, but in the fact that the intent is to play around with the process. That is so rare right now. It's very much in line with what I have been trying to do with things like this. But just like with my creativity in general, where when I was 5, drawing a flower with crayons, drawing probably the 15th picture of me and my favorite stuffed animal at the time, I was not doing it because I was trying to be Leonardo da Vinci. I was not doing it because I was trying to be Van Gogh. I was doing it because I wanted to draw. Plain and simple, that's it. And it is certainly political that creatives now are told that they should focus more on the end result, on the fact that executives care more about the projected income or box office earnings from the first week, 1 week of a movie being in theaters. That's what they care most about, is those numbers. The fact that this movie got made, the fact that it came out and did well in terms of indie numbers, it's a real stick it to the man moment, which is awesome. But also, just outside of that, it's beautiful. It's like watching someone just play, which is so refreshing. It's so refreshing right now. We just really don't see a lot of people playing anymore, and that's another reason why I thought of Problemista in a different way. But the play of not taking things so literally, or actually making things artful, the value in that, and the fact that right now making things very intentionally artful is a political statement when it comes to the state of the industry in the US, at least, is a truly beautiful thing. And I think it cannot be overstated. I think it needs to be really hammered home. It's great. It's certainly not a perfect film, but that shouldn't be the requirement, Of course, everybody has their perfect film. That's not what matters right now. It's really not. I think what matters is the process. I think it's really interesting. So, yeah, if you haven't seen I Love Boosters, if you haven't seen Sorry to Bother You, if you haven't seen I'm a Virgo, you should watch any and all of them, because they are all equally vibrant, playful, process-driven, incredibly unique films, and it cannot be overstated. I think I'm saying that right. It just also just the fact that all it took really was 2 feature films, and Boots Riley has a definitive style. That's kind of crazy. It's really incredible to know your art like that, and given he has been a musician for a long time, and if you watch any of the music videos that the Coup made, what was the music video that I watched? I think it's just called Guillotine, but it's a Wizard of Oz themed music video. It's really beautiful, and the song goes really hard. It's a great song. But it's really, this is the type of art that I really care for. This is the type of art that makes me very excited and hopeful, which is rare lately. So please, 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 please go watch I Love Boosters if you haven't seen it already. There's also one of the craziest practical. I would love to see how they made it. I would love to know how much of it is practical. There is a creature, and I'm not going to spoil this if you haven't seen it, because I hope you see it for the first time and have the same reaction that I did. I was in the theater, I was watching it, the scene comes on screen, and I fully leaned towards the screen. I could not understand what I was looking at. And they let you, thank God, he lets the shot linger. One of the most innovative, ridiculous, beautiful, terrifying, hilarious monsters, but also symbolic things I've ever seen in a film. Truly, no one is thinking like this. No one is making movies like this, except for Boots Riley. So, go see I Love Boosters. It's wonderful. Okay. Now, we move on to Disclosure Day, which is Steven Spielberg's newest film. It released on the day that I'm recording this, Friday, June 12th. Thursday, if you're early. And I actually don't know if I addressed the score in I Love Boosters, but that is definitely a similarity between these two films. Is the score for I Love Boosters is, I believe, by a band or a group called the Tune Yards. So it's very, again, it just fits the movie. It's an incredibly unique soundtrack. It's really playful. The score for Disclosure Day. I like music. I am certainly influenced by a good score, but I have not been made to feel the way that I have felt about a score in I don't know how long. And then I heard the score from Disclosure Day. I've never been a John Williams fanboy, but I get it now. I understand. It is truly, we're going to get into it, but that at least is a singular similarity, is that these two films have just some of the most incredible, unique, beautiful music I've heard in so long. Again. So, for Disclosure Day, I'm going to read I watched the movie and I just kind of went crazy on my notes app, and then I organized it into this. So I'm going to read that to you, and then we will ramble. 1. Empathy. The film so deeply embodies it in so many ways. Performance, cinematography, score, all overflow with emotion. I think of the panic attack scene, the care with which it is handled, of course, but more so the space between Daniel and Margaret. The intensity of that moment, the way he holds her, physically intimate and so necessary, though our collective conscious risks every romantic trope. Trust and believe, Josh O'Connor is a cutie and has very beautiful hands. It shows us there is something more, something much deeper. 2. Connection. Vital. We are desperately lost without it. The experience that our two protagonists share as children, the connection between them extends beyond them. Margaret, people see their loved ones in her, and she sees them in all their humanity. A mirror. a kind of selfless power maybe. With it, even those like Noah can change. The truth power of connection, alien to us now. And three, eyes. You can see it in all of their eyes. Everything. Stark naked humanity. Their place in a Spielberg film. How he treasures the soul within and offers it to us. Asks us to connect, to look in the mirror. They are literally and metaphorically how Daniel and Margaret first connect. How we see each other, the world. To truthfully see, we must not allow ourselves to fall victim to fear. Just for a moment, we would transcend the boundaries of language. We would understand that everything is circular, connected. We would understand empathy. We would know what it means to truthfully listen. Sincere, stunning, heartful film. So, that's Disclosure Day. I have long wanted to write a piece about Spielberg because the reason why I haven't been able to figure out how to write the piece is because I don't know that it's anything you can objectively pin down, and I haven't figured out how to capture the feeling, what it evokes in writing. But Spielberg has already established a very, to me, unique type of warmth and authenticity in all of the films of his that I have seen. I have not seen all of his films. He's got a very extensive filmography. But in the characters that he writes and focuses on, especially children, but really everyone, there is something about it that is unique to Spielberg. It is certainly, in my opinion, an element of his authorship, but it's not necessarily definable. In this movie specifically, in Disclosure Day, it is entirely in the eyes. There are numerous moments throughout this movie where I watched a character's eyes in a certain moment and knew this is a Spielberg moment. This is a Spielberg film. These are Spielberg eyes. I would only ever see this type of depth of expression, of wonder, maybe, in a Spielberg film. And it definitely speaks to his direction, but it also speaks to the performance of these actors. Personally, big fan of Josh O'Connor, big fan of Emily Blunt, would never have picked them to be in a movie together. And I remember when I heard about the movie being announced, I thought it was curious that the two of them were top billed. I understand why. They are absolutely, on their own and together, especially together, incredible. The theme of this movie being empathy, the idea that, to me, it feels like Spielberg took a concept, an emotional concept, and wrote around that. It feels so much less of something driven by plot or even character, maybe in the way that you're typically used to watching a character study. Because these characters are not flat, but it's not about them. It's about humanity. It's they're passengers for their gifts, but also for us to be able to understand empathy and how deeply, deeply lost right now, again, in the US, we are in the absence of empathy, but also just sympathy. We're so heartless right now. We're so cold because of the state of things. And to watch a movie like this made me just feel warm and hopeful, and not in an artificial way, in a deeply human way, because it really just shows you how important it is to recognize your humanity, not only in yourself, but in everyone, in the world around you. To be selfless, to recognize it's not all about you. It's not up to you to decide everything for everyone. The universal truth that we don't know is how important empathy is. And it's just so... There is a plot, of course. It's not wandering. I think maybe my only complaint objectively was I do think you could probably make it a little bit shorter. It's about 2.5 hours. And I understand the function of making it 2.5 hours because it's a deeply emotional film. It wants to give you time to sit with these really deep emotions and concepts. But I personally would have been fine with like 30 less minutes. That's really the only thing. I can't describe it. That's why I can't write this piece. Well, that's why I haven't been able to write this piece about Spielberg yet. Especially in this movie. There is just something about it that is so deeply human. Not to be cliche, but in the age of artificial intelligence, of generative AI, of every executive well-off Silicon Valley drone telling us that that's the future, this movie is beautiful. Because not only does it not feel the need to make some grand political statement, it simply shows you how important it is not to lose your sense of humanity, and how important it is to maintain some sense of connection as like a human race, but also as just beings in general when we interact with these non-human gray alien things, you know? There's a particularly heartbreaking scene when Daniel shows Jane, his girlfriend, what's going on. You can't even... I got full body chills. I got goosebumps just now thinking about the noise. You see a little bit of it, but Spielberg is very talented and he understands my favorite rule of cinema. Show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. So he shows you a little bit of what's going on so that you have a context, and then he simply shows you the reactions that these two people have, and all you see is their reaction, and the only thing you hear is one of the most heartbreaking non-human noises I've ever heard. By the time Daniel closes the laptop, I genuinely breathed a sigh of relief, because I don't know if I could have been able to hear that anymore. It's just so... I don't want to say magical, because it's not magical. It is deeply grounded in humanity, but there's something about the fact that we're so lost right now, or we're so starved for humanity because we're being told it doesn't matter, and frankly, there's a lot of people who just aren't acting human, who are turning into drones who care more about money than people. There's something about the depth of emotion and the emphasis on simply that feels close to magical, because it's so rare. It's maybe similar to Boots Riley in that putting emphasis on the process of filmmaking, the wonderful, magical, playful things that you can do with the process of creating a forced perspective scene, or making a skyscraper literally crooked and having the set design be falling down as a way to show you how crooked the people that live in this building are. It's how starved we are for things like that, and how starved we are for just really deeply human feelings. Both of them feel so akin to something magical. I don't think it's magical, but it's just special. It's rare. It's very, right now especially, it's very unique. I personally, I can't express how much I value both of those things. Not properly, not in the way that I would want to, or feel that I was doing it justice. They're so important to my values when it comes to humanity and art, which are maybe the two things I treasure most about being a human and being alive. It's really beautiful. And I know that I'm barely talking about the plot, but that's fine, because hopefully you go watch these movies and then you get to see the plot for yourself. But after I watched Disclosure Day, I got a really sad feeling that we may just be so starved for empathy and the nutrients that comes when you engage with meaningful, authentic art, that I could definitely see people not understanding what the point of the movie is and thinking that it's just another run-of-the-mill Spielberg movie. But I really truly think that if you sit with it and if you let it penetrate you, for lack of a better term, it is heavy, but not in a draining way. It's just so, there's such a depth, and it's beautiful, and it's frustrating that I can't figure out how to speak about it, because it is so unique. But it's also, again, it's something that Spielberg can do. I've seen him do it before in his other films, but it's really just the entire point of this film. I would say, if you do go watch it, and you should watch it in a theater, because there are a number of really just, like, I'm talking about empathy, but there are also a number of very fun, action-packed sequences that are great to watch with people in a theater. Hearing that score in a theater is so beautiful. It's truly, stay through the credits so that you can hear this sweeping orchestral, frankly, masterpiece by John Williams. I think the track is called Listen. It's beautiful. I think I closed my eyes and just listened to it. It's really, it's wonderful. It's very deeply refreshing and hopeful in an authentic way, not in a hopecore, TikTok, whatever. It's because it's tangible, if you can tap into your own humanity and your own empathy and recognize the value in that for yourself and for humanity, maybe it can work wonders, In a way, it is a little bit of a fantasy, but it is a tangible one because it's something that you can do. It's not the performance of hope. It is, hey, we're humans. All of us are humans. Life is terrifying and complex and wonderful all at the same time. We should not forget that we're all humans. We should not fall victim to, these, I forget what they're called, what the company's name is in the movie. I wanted to say Waystar, but it's not Succession. Great show, though. I can't think of it. I think it starts with a W, but the fact that the person who is keeping all of this information secret can change by the end of the film, but also the fact that it shows you that some people simply don't change. and the choice to simply have that person walk away and just stop engaging and give up because he sees someone larger than him change, purely because he listened, he saw, he connected, he understood, he felt his humanity. That's beautiful. I could just continue rambling and being redundant about these two movies for a very long time. I think they are both equally beautiful, unique standouts in the new releases of this year, but also just as films, especially right now, especially in the decade that they've released in. I think they are beautiful and really wonderful statements about art and humanity, and I think you should see them. I think if you like movies, you should watch them. And you should ignore the film bro inside of your head telling you that a movie is only valid if it's perfect. No. A movie is a piece of art, or a film is a piece of art. They can be pieces of art if you let them be. It can be entertainment, it can be art, it can be both. You shouldn't limit it to being inside of some kind of box. Watch it. Watch I Love Boosters. Watch Disclosure Day. Just let them wash over you. Take what you will from them. If you have seen either of these films already, either or, both and, if you've seen I Love Boosters, if you've seen Disclosure Day, please do feel free to tell me what you thought. Share with the class. These are meant to be conversations, not reviews or critiques. I personally just love movies and I could ramble about them forever. So this is a practice of that, but it is also me trying really, really hard to convince you to go see these movies, especially if you can see them in a theater. It's worth it. I promise you, it's so worth it. But yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble. Thank you for listening to me read my pieces. Keep watching movies. And thanks for being here.